All right, welcome back, everybody. I have the privilege to sit down with Battalion Chief Joe Cvach. He's a respected leader and educator in the American Fire Service and the EMS community with over 25 years of experience, serving full-time with Anne Arundel County Fire Department and volunteering in Queenstown, Queen Anne's County. I'm sure he's going to correct me on all this. He's constantly demonstrated his commitment to service on all levels. As a state certified instructor and evaluator, Chief Cvach has influenced many professionals as 18-year adjunct instructor, member of Anne Arundel County College, he's developing and teaching programs in operations and rescues, EMS, leadership. So pretty much he has his hands in all aspects of our job right now. His experience has started at the local and national conferences, including NFPA Las Vegas, Fire Shows West, and the New York State Technical Rescue Conference. He's also serves as a command team for the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial. In his role, he works throughout the year to ensure that the families of those who have fallen in the line of duty receive the honor and dignity they deserve during their visit to Emmitsburg, which is in Maryland, where Joe works out of. A respected graduate of the National Fire Academy Executive Fire Officer Program, he remains dedicated to the development of future leaders in the American Fire Service and EMS. Well, first of all, welcome, Chief. Did I miss anything in your bio, my brother, or did I mess up any of the names of the towns or the counties around you?
No, you're good. It's just as hard to develop it to, list down your career over actually about 30 years now. I do the 25 year to kind of make me feel a little bit younger. But started volunteering when I was 16, so I'm pushing 30 years in the service now altogether. Career for 25 now, and it's been a phenomenal ride. Absolutely, being able to work locally, work in the state of Maryland, major metropolitan organization. We're one of the top 60 in the country on the western side of the Chesapeake Bay, if you're familiar with the setup down there, which I know you are. Then on the eastern side where I live with my family, volunteer in the small town America, still close enough to run to the firehouse when the siren blows to go out and serve the citizens. So absolutely love it, and I'm very, very thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
Hey, Chief, thank you again for taking time out of your busy day. And again, this is one of our brothers that not only is a career guy, but then takes his time outside of his job to help volunteer in his neighborhood. So that's awesome. So Chief, first of all, thank you again for coming on the show, but really here to talk about the education side with you and how important it is. So right now, most of the guys know I'm assigned to our regional training academy, which trains 8 to 9 different cities in the state of Arizona. So I'm engulfed in the newest tactics and everything else and how important education is in the American Fire Service. And we were talking prior to recording just the amount of change over the last 5 years. And then we know there's going to be a lot more change over the next 5. So if you don't mind, boss, just go ahead and start talking about the importance of education, kind of your outlook, and then what you're trying to do for the American Fire Service to better not only your department, but all of us in general.
Sure. So, the key word you hit on there was change, right? And go open up any fire department magazine right now and see there's two things that we hate: change and the way things are. We get ingrained in our comfort zone. We get sometimes complacent, normalization of deviance. The list goes on and on and on as to all the different things that make it difficult for us to train. And I'll say train effectively. People go out, yeah, we did training today. Cool. What'd you do? I don't know. We threw ladders. All right. Well, did you try like a different technique, or did you try high shoulder, low shoulder, suitcase? What did you try? What I've always done. Okay. Got it. We went out and we did CPR today. All right, cool. You did CPR. Where did you do it? What do you mean? Did you do it on top of the table, or did you throw them next to the toilet? Because that's where we normally find them. We rarely find a cardiac arrest on top of a table, right? So you rarely find a ladder being thrown at your own firehouse. Did you go out and go in the community, knock on a couple doors? Hey, if it's okay with you, we're going to throw some ladders here in the building. If it's not okay, if something's going on, we'll move on. No big deal, right? And so you go and you take that educational piece of it and you think, what is it that we're doing well, first of all? Well, we do really, really well basics. We get into the basics and we say, hey, here's how to become a firefighter. Here's how we're going to prepare you. This is your line stretch. This is your ladder throw. This is your SCBA. You go back and you look at any kind of the military movies, right? This is your weapon. You will use it, and you will abide by it, and you will clean it, and you will take care of it. And they live by that mantra. And I would say for the vast majority of the fire service across the country, we absolutely positively live by that mantra as well. Occasionally, though, you get some slip through the cracks. We were better lucky than good, right? Nobody died. The fire went out. Let's go home. Now, there's still opportunities for education, even in a hot wash, even in an episode where, you're right. It was a bread and butter fire. Everything went well and nobody got hurt. Let's go back and take a look. Just had one last night. Neighborhood that we've been to probably a dozen times, newer neighborhood. And when I say newer, within the past 10 to 15 years, the engineman comes over to me afterwards. He's like, Chief, did you know they had city threads here? Nope. Did not know they had city threads here. And for us, National Standard versus Baltimore City Threads are two different fittings. They're just minuscule difference between the two. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, thank goodness it wasn't a job. We're able to take the time, open the hydrant, open the steamers, let's go through everything, go to hook up, and you're missing that connection, right? That engineman was able to go through very quickly, troubleshoot, ran back the other engine, got the fitting that he needed, swapped it out, was good to go. So now what's the continued education on that? Hey, listen, when you get back to the station, make sure the rest of the crews know, make sure the rest of the shifts know. More importantly, let's get out into this neighborhood and see, is every hydrant this way? Or was it just that one? Because when we took a look at it, that fire hydrant was shinier than any of the other ones around here. So is it new? Did Public Works come through and maybe change it out? And if he hadn't have taken that opportunity last night to do that and learn from that, it could be catastrophe moving forward.
Yeah, and it's like we say too, it's just because we've done it this way every single time doesn't mean it's going to work every time. And like you hit the nail on the head, that 95% bread and butter house fire that we all feel comfortable with, we can learn something from every single fire because better than anybody else, especially running command on these fires, they never go perfect. There's always a good learning opportunity. So as a battalion chief on a fire, will you always so here we call it like so we call it a tailboard, which is after the fire, we talk about it. We take all the crews in and say, hey, engine one, you're first on scene. What you do, why? Engine two, what you do, why? And then collectively come down. Do you guys, or you as a command officer, do you do something like that on every fire? Or is it only the ones that kind of have, say, some sort of nuance to it?
So on every fire, we try as diligently as possible to do that hot wash, that immediate, like, hey, fresh in your mind. Let's go through this. Engine one, engine two, engine three, truck one, squad, whoever's still there. We do try to scale back as quickly as possible so that crews can get in service, get ready for the next run. But we'll capture and make sure they've gone through rehab. Hey, bring a bottle of water with you, bring a cold towel. Let's talk about this. Let's go through the highlights. What was good? What can we do better next time? What did we miss? Or what did we not know about? That's always my favorite, right? All right, we're all sitting here. No, nothing's being recorded. What didn't we know about? Well, Chief, on the backside, maybe we dropped a ladder, or maybe we got up on the roof and it was softer than we thought, so we kind of scurried down quickly, and we took care of it as we needed to. Okay, understandable. But let's use that as a quick educational opportunity, right? If you didn't tell me that information and something catastrophic happened, what was your plan? I don't know that I had one, or, I'd have called Mayday right away. All right, cool. We know, you're going to bust out that who, what, where. Let's walk through that very quickly and take that moment where you're kind of unveiling some things here. You're kind of peeling back that onion, if you would, and all of a sudden going, okay, what's the topic at hand here? Let's talk about Maydays. So if you had to call a Mayday, how are you going to do it? How's the transmission going to go? Are you calling it for yourself? Or are you calling it for somebody else? And if that's the case, what's the next part of your plan? Are you already scurrying, trying to get them out of there to hurry up and rectify the situation, or bring the conversation full circle? Are you not going to tell me until after you've tried everything and now you're out of opportunities? And so it's finding that happy medium, right? It's really taking advantage of what is real-time training that you can learn from. What are the canned courses that we can do? Your Fire 1, your Fire 2, your EMT, your hazmat ops, to get you prepared. But then from there, it has to grow and it has to be daily. So just recently, we remembered the passing of firefighter Nate Flynn over in Howard County. He was trapped after a CSST gas fed fire in a McMansion, as we call them. And they went and did the NIOSH report and everything else. And as you read through the NIOSH report and you listen to his wife talk about it, his wife will say they looked at the SCBA and for 6 minutes he was still breathing. He couldn't communicate. He was still breathing. And she said, there's no doubt in my mind that he was trying as hard as he can, using every technique, every skill, every tip, every trick to try and get out of that situation. He too was a fantastic instructor. So you know where his mindset is trying to get through that. So she says, train your six all the time. If nothing else, every day you're working takes 6 minutes. We've been talking for what, 10 minutes already, give or take? How long does 6 minutes take? It's half of an episode if you're watching TV with commercials. Everybody's streaming right now is commercials. But, 6 minutes. How long does that truly take? No time at all. And actually, I find it kind of funny now. You go online and you get your, email feed of any of the major news publications or fire engineering, firehouse, etc. And now the articles tell you this is a 2-minute read, this is a 7-minute read, this is a 5-minute read. Like in my mind, it shouldn't matter. Like I should just open it up because I want to open it up, not because I'm skimming through looking for the shorts, right? If that was the case, we'd still have the comics out and I could just read the comic strips. But when you look at training in the moment, canned programs, quality is the key there.
So when you talk about quality for that, so you're talking about Mayday situations, you're talking about the fireman that you guys recently lost in your region. And like you had said, he was a great instructor. So he's going through all of his modalities for you, for your guys in your battalion and the members that you can directly affect. So what kind of change did you guys implement from that line of duty death, if anything? Or was it just a kind of revisit of, hey, let's make sure we're sharp on our Maydays, make sure we're sharp on our who, what, whys, or our lunars, or whatever you guys are using? Kind of how did that branch out for y'all?
Yeah, and so actually with firefighter Nate Flynn and then firefighter Josh Laird in Frederick County, within a year or two afterwards, it was the same situation, right? Falling into a basement, CSSD, gas line rupture, fire after a lightning strike. And so we had already gone through and said our Mayday policy has to change to do the who, what, where. It's much simpler when you're racked and you're just trying to fight for your life. Lunar was great. We go back and we look at things that served us in the past. It made sense. If I'm sitting in a controlled burn room of my training academy and someone throws, the blanket over top of me or pulls you on the back with the wire, you go, all right, this is firefighter Smith. I'm trapped. I'm in the basement of where are we? Of this made up room. What unit? And it's like this back and forth. So your sets and reps are not there naturally versus you're going to give an entry report. That's your who, what, where. Who's your crew? What are you doing? Where are you operating? So let's continue to duplicate that. Let's continue to replicate that so that in an emergency, you're on a medical and all of a sudden somebody pulls a gun. You push the button, get the emergency activation going and work that into your mantra. Hey, listen, we're just here from the engine at your house and we're trying to help you, sir. So please put the gun down. Very subtly giving the information out, but you've hit your button and you're giving your who, what, where. Like what's going on? What's the situation?
Now, someone had told me, or I shouldn't say told me, I listened to a podcast and somebody was talking about Maydays and they were talking about Lunar, who, what, where, all the other modalities that different departments are using. And they had made a point, like the only good thing that came out of Lunar was location was first. And he had made a point. The gentleman was from Florida and he had made a point, like location was number one. And I agree with that. Like it's merely interesting who you are, but I kind of feel like that's thoroughly important because at least that puts what crew were you attached to kind of thing. But he was making a point that location, if you can't get anything across the radio, can you try to give your location? Like what we're teaching new kids now is, hey, you might not know where you're at location when geographically, because here we use geographic, unfortunately, instead of Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta, which is what I prefer. But with that said, I went through the front door. I did a left-handed search. I believe I'm about 50 feet in. I'm lost, disoriented, off my hose line, whatever the case might be. But if you could only get in, I went through the front door. I did a left-handed search. I believe I'm 50 feet in clear, and then someone steps on top of me.
Yep.
So what would be as a battalion chief, what would be your driving factor of like, hey, if you can get only a couple things across, is it still the who, what, where? Is that why we kind of simplified it over the Lunar? Because again, I came from the same system and that's what we were initially taught. So what are you guys progressing in now when it comes down to the Maydays? Yeah.
So again, back to, the policy, our Mayday policy, our Mayday practice, I prefer to say, is that we're doing the who, what, where. We're running simulations through that. Every recruit that comes through the academy does safety and survival. And I had the fortunate opportunity to go down very early on when I became a BC teaching at the academy. and ran a few of those situations. So I had, 20, 30 reps of firefighters going down, projecting their who, what, where, and immediately coming back over. Okay, firefighter Schmerkens, I know where you are. I have a crew coming to you. And then transitioning. I'm talking to you and you only. Listen to my voice, pay attention to what's going on, pay attention to the surroundings, conserve your air, all these things that all of a sudden, there's no book that talks about talking to your firefighter. There's communications all the time, right? Yell, make sure they're concise, speak to the point, et cetera, et cetera. But just physically talking. And so to go through those sims and have that in there, that repertoire, those sets and reps, the Rolodex, if you're old enough to know what that is, in your brain, that the first time you hear someone scream, Mayday, 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 okay, that sounds like this crew. If they can come across with their crew information, like you were just saying, their plan was to who, what, where. They were going to enter floor number 1 with a line for fire attack. So theoretically speaking, that's where they should be. And while listening to them, while actively listening and saying, hey, all right, Mayday, 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 I'm trapped, I'm lost, I'm disoriented, I've fallen through, there's been a collapse, whatever, insert whatever verb there to say, okay, that's the action that happened, and here's how we're going to rectify it. I know I have another crew nearby who should be able to assist it. And when you go back and look at the numbers, how are most Maydays handled? By crews in the immediate area in the vicinity. But I also know that my RIT team has done a 360 of their own, softened the building to the best of their ability, and hopefully actively listening as well to say, okay, it sounds like they made their way through and they're about halfway through the building, like the example you were given. We're going in this window right here because they should be right there. Or we saw conditions change at this window, so they should be right there. And that's that whole, like, we just went down this rabbit hole of Mayday, like out of nowhere. But all those little components that you have to teach along the way in the academy, at the tabletop, in real-time practice, and then doing those hot washes. If something were to have happened on this call, it didn't, it went well, everyone is good. What was the plan? Rit, what was your plan of action if a crew that was upstairs in the attic fell through the floor? Chief, we were going to take attic ladder up. We had the bag with us. So-and-so was in the front. So-and-so was in the back. We were going to meet in the middle. Cool. That works. Where was your mindset in that?
So when you talk about, I know we went on a tangent on the Maydays, but so kind of circle back on the education, we are actively trying right now. And I can speak from personal experience being at the academy. We're actively trying to not insert as many training scars as we can. It's impossible not to include some of them just because the amount of kids that we're trying to get through, because I'm sure your department's the same as mine. We're hiring because we're on this big revolving door right now. A bunch of guys are leaving. We need a bunch of guys in. So trying to get these kids trained up without trying to insert, hey, just shut the nozzle down. Hey, it's not a real emergency, everything else. So what do you believe, your personal opinion, starting in the beginning, because we're talking about the academy. So let's talk about those brand new recruits. So how do we, as soon as they get out to the field and you start interjecting with them, they're a pro, be a rookie, how do you start inserting how important that education is to them to start negating some of those training scars that are just, it's impossible not to have, and then to encourage them, I guess I would say, to continuously learn? Because again, we said in the very beginning, the last 5 years has dramatically changed. The next 5 years we already know is going to change. So how do you stress the importance or send them, I guess, in the right direction to go on that education to make this a very important part of their career?
Sure. So, step number 1 is connecting with them. Hey, my name's Joe. I am your battalion chief. You're part of my battalion now. What's your name and what did you do before the fire department? So whether it is I just graduated high school or I was a college math teacher, one guy was a bus driver, and when we did the vehicle course, the emergency vehicle operator course, that guy could wheel. That guy could wheel a fire engine. And I was like, you're not even responding anywhere and you're doing this. So this is going to be a good time. But having that background, right? Because now I need to think to myself, all right, I could sit here, you could sit here all day long, and we can talk jargon and lingo that we've learned over the past 2.5 decades of doing this. And more importantly, doing this in different locations and areas. Like we were just talking about earlier, the East Coast versus West Coast. The Mississippi is this weird little nebulous that once you cross over, things are done differently for some reason, a little bit, or at least the terminology is different. I always gave the example when we went on family vacation, my dad didn't stop at other accounting firms like, hey, let me go see what these guys are doing in here. But we do, right? We visit each other, first of all, if you have friends and acquaintances across the country. But you can't, you buff a little bit, you pop in like, oh, what's that over there? Oh, this tool is used for this. So to be able to put that mindset in there for those brand new recruits hitting the field of, I need to know your background so that I can understand how to teach you or how to educate you. More importantly, the second something doesn't make sense, let us know. Let your officer know, let me know. What about it doesn't make sense? You hear it all the time. Well, they didn't treat us they didn't tell us in the academy. They probably did. You were just exhausted. You were hot, sweaty. You skipped that day. You didn't skip that day, but you mentally skipped that day.
Yeah.
And it was just something that in and out. So, okay, nope, we're going to go back through the basics. We're going to set it up. We've been very fortunate that in the past few years, we do a complete recruit task book as soon as they hit the street. So they've been practicing all these skills. Half the book is completing those skills over and over again, getting that muscle memory down. One, like you were talking about, their actual engine, their actual ladder truck, their actual rescue squad, not the clunker that we got sitting out in the academy. Love it. It still works to this day. Probably shouldn't be on the road, but that's a whole different conversation. But, you've sat there and you've re-racked with 28 other people helping, I have to be doing something, so I'm going to do the inchworm with the hose. All right, now there's just two of you. Go re-rack that line. Where's the rest? Where's the rest of the folks? And so putting that into perspective of, hey, now that you're in the field, it's real time. It's real time. So I want to know as soon as something goes wrong, as soon as something doesn't make sense, or more importantly, if you don't feel comfortable doing something, let me know. Let us know collectively. And that's huge too, Steve. Looking at it and saying, we're a battalion, we're a department, we're an organization, but we're the American Fire Service. A friend of mine, we've connected over the past 2 years, is chief in Stockholm, Sweden. And Peter's a great guy. And we banter back and forth every once in a while to say, like, man, you guys are crazy because they're using like explosives to breach roofs because of the construction of their house. And meanwhile, we're like, this plywood feels a little spongy. I don't think I'm going to get on it today. And you shouldn't, the truss is probably gone. The brackets are gone, everything else. But, that concept of like the American Fire Service versus anywhere else does have a little bit more teeth to it. And so looking at that new person, and I feel like you can't even say probie anymore because some people are coming to the fire service with years of experience in another job. Like they've lived life, whether that be construction, education, military, a bus driver like my friend there, lots of chefs recently. That's been a good catch. Lots of people who cook, very, very important. But just looking at them and going, okay, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. You do still have the true, just straight rookie, wet behind the ears, graduated high school, maybe watched an episode of Chicago Fire or Rescue Me or whatever the case is, and was like, that seems kind of cool. Let me go ahead and do this. So figuring out where they're coming from, how to meet them in the middle, figuring out their learning styles, and then making a plan moving forward. Hey, look, we're going to get your recruit task book done. We're going to work on phase 2, which is where you do essentially all the things that we can't tackle in the academy. You're going to go out and look at some fire alarm control panels. We're going to talk about some sprinkler systems. We're going to do some inspections and get you out there. We're going to get you engaged in the community. And that's another part of it is the skills are great. But as Chief Alan Bernasini said, you have to take care of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. As I always say, you have to take care of Grandma Schmerkens. The Schmerkens family, the Smith family are our customers. They are why we are here. And that is our number one goal, to go out and protect them, whether that be a fire, vehicle accident, medical emergency. Mr. Fluffernutter's lost in the woods and they want us to go find him. We're going to do it to the best of our ability. But more importantly, we're going to communicate with you. And I'm going to set that example, showing those new recruits, those new probies, hey, look, this is how we talk to people, and this is how you should talk to people. So it's a whole bunch of connections, right? Bridging gaps. Where they come from? What's their background? How do they perceive us? How do they perceive the fire service? How do they perceive the citizens that we serve? What do they bring to the table? And how can we make a plan to move them forward?
And I like what you said at the end. Hey, what do they bring to the table? Because I believe, honestly, we kind of miss that mark. And it feels like you're on it right now, where you're going, hey, what'd you do before, bro? You're like, help me out. Because you could have an asset that you did in your previous life that is extremely beneficial to the fire service. Or I'll call out one of your brothers, right? Andy Liebno. He came from Howard County he was a lieutenant retired, 20 years, and then started all over again. The man knows the fucking job. He had 20 years on the job already and then starts all over again. Like, shame on us if we don't figure that out, at least ask him. So again,
Sure.
that guy's not a rookie in my book, but again, we have traditions and everything along those lines, and we all play the role. But so I'm curious on how you guys right now on the East Coast, or at least with your department, how you handle this. So we have transitioned our academy and our probation time where we're more, I don't know how to say this, more respectful on the why. So we encourage the ask of, hey, why? Because we are trying to now interject, and I'll just use, say, vertical ventilation. I want to teach you 20 different ways to vertically ventilate any house and then empower you to pick the right method for that house, that setback, that time of day, that time of year, whatever it is, and make the correct decision because we've effectively trained you in multiple different aspects. How are you guys handling, first of all, the why? Because that's how the newer, I don't want to say generation, the newer society wants to be taught. Modalities of, are you trying to interject as many opportunities or modalities or tactics as possible? Or is it like, hey, let's hone these guys on 2 or 3 things and make them really, really good? Where are you guys at on that?
Sure. So we are, I'm going to use the word handcuffed right now
Okay.
into, how our academies run in terms of the classes they have to take, the hours that they have to be in those classes, and what material can be taught. And I'll say should be taught, but can be taught. So they go through that. They go through the canned portion of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, Hazmat Ops, EMT, and then we've got vehicle machinery and vehicle extrication in there as well. After you go through those, towards the end of the academy, or once those parts are done, we say, okay, that was the book way. And we do that for consistency. It's slightly painful, but I think you understand, like, the first time you build something, the first time Andy put something together, and he just built a bajillion props at the academy and has now taken a spot in one of our safety officers, actually my safety officer. It's fantastic.
Hell yeah.
But the first time he did it, he followed the directions, where he followed a step, he followed a procedure to do something. So that's why we we start with that. We're like, okay, in order to pull a line, A, you got to know what the line it is. B, here's how to do it. After those weeks have gone by, then we start to integrate field readiness scenarios. And so that's where we say, okay, you, brand new firefighter, are in charge of this crew. Now, there is an instructor hawking over top of them the entire time, but you're going to lead this crew. Here's the scenario. You're going to walk through this, because when you hit the street, that's the expectation tomorrow, not the expectation, we'll give you 3 shifts to kind of get your feet wet. Just sit back. No. The expectation tomorrow is you're in the back and you're doing the job. And so right now we've been able to acquire some structures. We're setting those up for search, both with shields and smoke, kind of setting up the 8 different rooms. And that's been fantastic. That's a joint effort with one of our military bases around near us, looking at those scenarios and saying, okay, you've memorized that burn building. If you've been an instructor long enough, you and I both know we're our own worst enemy, because we're walking down the hallway, standing up, you run into something. Who left that door open? Meanwhile, you look at all the recruits that are crawling past you and are like, oh, look at this big doof standing here. And that door that was open that you told us to get down and crawl past. Oh, I know how this building's laid out. So, own worst enemy. But putting them out into a completely different environment for a few days just to see how they do. Like, okay, let's get you out of your comfort zone and let's go test you. I'm going to tell you, I send my guys as well, even after they've had a couple years out on the street or just another series of trainings for the battalion. Hey, let's next month, let's plan to get the companies over to the hotel or the apartments. Let's do some search drills. Let's prepare for the things that we haven't done recently. And so to talk about, the academy and the overall education, and you look at that canned program, they definitely have their benefits, because hopefully it creates that solid foundation. But then in the academy, they're building on it, they're expanding upon it. The academy instructors down there right now are always, but just we've finally gotten into a good groove of knowledgeable, experienced instructors who are coming in for the right reasons. And we've been very blessed that we actually got a budget increase to have permanent instructors down the academy. Typically, you apply to be an instructor down the academy with a couple of leads who are the full-time staff down there. You're down for a class, and then you head back to the field. We now have the opportunity to put 5 positions in there that all they're going to do is work on those academy classes. So you build that consistency and you build that dedication to the students as well. All right, if I see you're not getting this skill, let's test it the way that it needs to be tested, but also let's look at the dimension that it's being tested. For example, student adequately and safely can remove and post a 24-foot ladder. All right, you're not 6'5", 240 pounds. You are 5 foot, 100 pounds, right? Take that ladder and let's pick it up a couple times and tell me what works for you. Let me see you do it. Let's see if it works for you. Okay, go over there, try this technique, see if this works for you. All right, now I see, much like we were talking about before, now I see how you're processing this to make that work for you. Put it back on the engine. Let's go ahead, use your technique. As long as it's safe and it meets the dimensions, we're good to go. And so it's kind of interjecting there as a as needed basis and not a carte blanche for everybody. Only for the fact that we are going to test you written and we're going to test you practical on all those skills.
I gotcha. And so basically when they get out in the field, they're empowered to be able to use different options and then obviously work under their suppression officers, and they can give them all those other keys to success. So when you talk about education, so those brand new guys, if you were to talk to a brand new dude right now that is single, let's say 20 years old, right? That guy you just talked about, fresh out of high school, never had a real job, got lucky enough to get hired by your department and just loves what he's doing right now. If you're like, this is what I want you to set up for success education wise, what would you tell that brand new fire recruit, or I should say brand new probie that now has a 20 to 25 year career ahead of him and trying to set him up for success in his first couple of years?
Absolutely. So 3 main points. 1, I want you to take some of the CAN classes. I want you to go take Fire Officer 1. I want you to take pumps within the next 2 years. Get good at what you're doing right now before you are moving on, but have that as part of your plan. I also want you to get out and go to some conferences. Get out of the area, get out of the region, get out of the state. If you're coming from another state, if you live in Pennsylvania, like where we are, we have folks flying in on each shift from Charlotte in the Carolinas. We've got people driving all the way down from upstate New York. One of the guys on my shift lives out in Pittsburgh. He wakes up at 2 o'clock and starts driving at 2:30 every shift. And that's where they live. We can't tell you where to live. Can't tell you how to live. So what we can tell you is go to those conferences. Listen to what's going on. You're going to hear some similarities. You're going to hear some differences. Bring the differences back and let's talk about it. Let's talk about if it works for us. Like you and I just said, this job in principle, life, property, environment is the exact same everywhere you go. I'm pretty sure every firehouse, fire station, fire department you walk into, in the mission and vision statement somewhere are those 3 words, but we do it 10,000 different ways. You know, I go back to my dad. I love him to death, but you know, accounting is directed by the IRS. Like you have to follow these forms and these statutes. That's a little different from state to state, but otherwise it's the same. We're the same in principle, but we do it a bunch of different ways because we have to. Because where my department in Anne Arundel County, we're shaped like a peanut. I can be in urban environment, button up next to Baltimore City, take an hour drive south, and all of a sudden I'm standing in the middle of a cornfield and I have none of those little fire bushes that sit out there to provide me water. So I got to go find them. And so, you know, having that flexibility as well. Hey, this is how we do it here. This is how we do it here. Even within one organization, within one area, within one region. Yes, but we have to tweak it this way. We have to tweak it this way because of whatever variety, you know, insert the variable here. Staffing, equipment, water, hydrant, non-hydrant, marine assets. You know, we've got 600 some miles of shoreline in Anne Arundel County. Love it. And have just now, this is going into my 25th year with them. We just now have 2 brand new boats that are just going to knock people's socks off and really, really ingrain our marine operations for generations to come. But the water's always been there. You know, it's not like the water just showed up. We're like, oh, we got to hurry up and buy some boats. We've always had it. Excuse me. So your recruits coming out again, take a couple of the can classes, kind of pace out that there, go to some conferences, and then I really push as much as I can looking towards that degree. It doesn't have to be a master's degree. It doesn't even have to be a bachelor's, but at least get back in the books, and your focus should be on human resources, human management, business management, something along those lines, so that you can understand how to deal with people. That's our business. We deal with people on their worst day, on their best day, on their craziest day. Whatever the day is they're having, we have to deal with them. And so when you go and you look at some of those classes and you go, okay, you know, human relations 101 or some sort of human psychology 101, like, oh, all right, it kind of makes sense. Right? And I'm telling them all the time, there are so many scholarship opportunities internal in our department, not even provided by the county, but just our internal department, that you actually could get your master's for free. You could apply for scholarships and use the money and roll it over through any of our online programs and online colleges and essentially go for free. Like that's what's there. Because normally it's, yeah, I'd like to, but I don't have the money for it. I gotcha. Where do you want to go? What scholarship do you want? We'll put the application in right here. And to backtrack for a second, Steve, I think that also is the cherry on top. Hey, listen, here's your plan. Here's where I think you should focus. I see what you like. Let's go do it together. Let's go sign you up. Let me show you how to enroll. Let me show you where these resources are. I'm not going to stroke the check for you. I'm sorry, but I have 4 other terrorists that I have to pay for, of my own, that I can't make you do it, but I really, really will help you do it as much as I can.
Gotcha. So let's ask the same question again, but let's talk about that newly promoted lieutenant. So let's say he's had an adequate career, decided to go ahead, hey, I want to be a supervisor, studies really hard, does well, gets promoted to lieutenant. Now he's re-engaged. We see out here a lot. So what would you tell to that brand new suppression officer? Same deal. He still has maybe 10 or so years left in the fire service till he's eligible to retire. What would you tell that guy, that brand new supervisor, first line supervisor on that education side? Where would you kind of direct him?
So what was the first thing I asked my recruit, right? Hey, what'd you do before this? So I'm asking that supervisor the same thing. Hey, I know you came from engine or the medic, whatever the case is. What do you want to teach us? What are you passionate about right now? Because I have 9 stations in the battalion. So I'm going to go through and tell you that right now, 9 months out of the year, one of you is going to teach a class.
Okay.
That way it gives us a summer month off. It gives us the holiday month off because nobody's there. Yes, we're all there, but none of our regular cast of characters. Half of them are off skiing, half of them are off hunting, half of them are off in the Bahamas, whatever the case is during those months. So we'll plan accordingly. Like still live, have fun, enjoy your leave. It's called leave, not stay. But during the other months, school time, like we're going to be in school too. And station 10, you're going to handle this. Station 11, what do you want to do? And for those newer officers, we've just gotten into in the past few processes doing an assessment center. So I've been running assessment center prep with them and explaining to them that when if they've never taken the assessment before, when you get those dimensions, that's a C. When you repeat those dimensions back, you arrived on location, you gave your BIR, your 360, you nailed it, you got a line in and did everything, you regurgitated an SOG, which is what I want you to do, but that's average because the other 100 people in here testing are doing the same thing. I need you to be above average. And if you notice when we've been talking about a couple of these topics, I always branch it out. So if the scales, let's just say 1 through 5, 3 is that SOG is the normal answer that everyone's going to give. A 4, you're talking about safety and wellness of you, the personnel that we're serving, our external or internal stakeholders, and how that applies. 5, added value. What is the added value that you're bringing to your crew? What is the added value you're bringing to the community? that goes above and beyond, not outside our scope, but above and beyond just regurgitating the SOG. And so for that brand new officer, that's the same thing. Hey, I know where you came from. I know you've had a good career so far. I'm glad you're here. Let's work on your next step. Do you see yourself going to the next step? Do you see yourself going to captain? Do you see yourself going to BC? If so, let's start planning now, because every 2 years that's going to pop up, and it's going to pop up fast. Here are the classes you need to take. Here are the conferences you should go to. And here's this project that's going on over here that I could use some help with, or I know so and so could use some help with, to kind of get you thinking just a little bit differently.
No, I got you. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little while ago, the why. Like you can ask that suppression officer too. And we talk about during, like you call it the assessment center or whatever. We have a CTC, same kind of deal. But it is, if you just regurgitate, like you're saying, you're a whiteboard tactician. We're all good at that, right? We can regurgitate and memorize what we're supposed to say. But the question is, hey, why'd you pull the line to the front door? And it's, if the answer is because we always pull a line to the front door, well, it's shame on you, brother. Like you should be telling me because of the location of the fire, because of the structure of the building, because of the offset, whatever that scene shows me. Like that's, I'm sure that's what kind of where you're getting at. You're asking the why, like the, not just the tactic, but why'd you choose that tactic? And it might not be wrong, because I even tell the guys, like, we'll ask you why all the time. And if I ask you why, it's not because you're wrong. I'm trying to make sure you're thinking. And if you're thinking, we're good. Even if you're wrong, I'm happy that you're thinking. We'll correct the mistakes. But what is hard to correct when they're like, well, it's because we always do that. It's like, well, bro, like we need to take a bunch of steps back. So how do you handle those senior guys that have just been ingrained in your system? And I know it's changed over the years, but that just bucket over and over and over again. How do you get the buy-in, I guess, from your senior personnel? Because of course that trickles down, because we have a senior captain that buys into the assessment center, the promotional process, the SOGs, whatever it is in your department. Obviously the guys below him buy in too, if he's a respected officer. So how do you get those senior members with 20 plus years to buy into new tactics, or just changing what they've done before because we found out new information? Like you and I were bred in the same system where we talked about pushing fire. It doesn't exist, right? We talk about flow paths. That's a real thing backed by science that we have data to support. So we talk about flow paths all the time now. That was never a conversation 20 years ago. So how do you get that hard-nosed, salty freaking captain or lieutenant to buy in, or even battalion chief to buy into the new? And like, so what would your approach be, the education side, to get them to maybe branch out a little bit?
We just drag them through it. No,
Okay.
I
love it. I love it. Fuck them. Kicking and
let's
screaming.
go.
Yeah,
That's
let's
what we're
go,
doing.
brother.
Yeah, it goes back to the why, right? So whether it be something as ridiculous as wearing your seatbelt, to and you know, you'd read in the bio there, doing the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, doing the Memorial Weekend and everything, and talking to the families and talking of how their line of duty occurred. You know, what were the circumstances? How did this occur? And taking those stories sometimes back to the firehouse. Like, guys, you need to do this. You need to wear your mask. You need to wear your seatbelt. You need to, you know, practice these skills. Because I've talked to a dozen plus families in the past weekend who have all shared their stories with me, and their loved one is gone because of tragedy, regardless of the situation. And so if there was anything avoidable, or if there's any lessons learned, we're going to apply those right away. And they all become wise. They all become wise. We go through, when we talk about NIOSH reports, and you look at the top five factors that are there that, you know, consistently lead to a line of duty injury or line of duty death. Communications being one of them. We're currently going through a huge swing in our communication system. We've divided into two different TAC areas and everything else, and two different dispatch zones. And so, you know, you hear it. Why are we doing this? It doesn't matter. You know, we've had plenty before. Because you need clear and concise communications all the time. Just because you're having a fire in your area doesn't mean the rest of the county goes, oh gosh, I'll wait to call because there's a big incident going on up north, so I'll hold off on my emergency. No, there's going to be more emergencies. The other point of it is, and this definitely gets in with the ingrained firefighter or officer, in the past 24 years that I've worked here, we have had exponential growth. exponential growth. I mean, literal areas that stations used to be in a farm field or were the retirement home because you might run a call a day are now some of the busiest companies in the county, running 10s and 15 calls a day, both EMS and fire. And so, you kind of bring that into the picture like, hey, we used to ride horses around and we stopped at some point in time because we found better technology. Station 21 used to be a retirement home, and now people are trying to transfer in because of how busy it is, not because the road literally used to stop in front of their station. We're at a point in time where you have to keep up. You have to keep up with us for the physical ability to do the job, for the mental wellness that it takes, for the overall physical health that you've gone through in your career. And again, I think we're on the same page here, kind of looking at that seniored or tenured, if you would, firefighter, and explaining like, look, all these things here. When you open up, what was it? More Air. I think it was a subset magazine for fire engineering, and they're in there talking about which mask do you want to wear? Do you want to wear your FCBA mask or do you want to wear your cancer treatment mask? Like it's those things, right? We have unfortunately had multiple cardiac related and cancer related deaths and illness within our own department recently that they come out and they're like, look, it happened to me, it can happen to you. You need to change. You need to adapt. You need to make sure that you're doing this. And I think right now we're kind of focused on the wearing your mask and seatbelt and everything else. But even when it comes to stretching line, so we went to a 400-foot line. The devil himself had descended upon us and smited everyone who ever made a 200-foot Minuteman, right? Like, whoa, that's it. We're not fighting fire anymore. We're going to get tangled up in this line. These kids nowadays, what it really boiled down to was, why is it so important? Well, it's so important because our community has changed. We can't just pull up in the front anymore, or our SOG has changed. Now we're pulling up in the front and the back, but we still have to make it to these homes. If you're up in the northern end where you've got your urban setup, you got your rows all back and forth. It's a grid pattern, easy peasy. You can take a 200 anywhere. You go down that cornfield, and we just had lightning strike the other day, 8,000 square foot, 2.9 million on the water. And crews took a 400-foot line and almost ran out of line. And so, hey, what are we doing here? Do you know how to use this? Do you know how to operate with this? What are some of the tips and techniques? We are very fortunate. We were very fortunate to do a core competencies test last year where we said, hey, look, you're going to stretch a line. You're going to stretch a line up to the staircase to the third floor. You're going to do a rescue. If you're a truck company, we're going to do some other things. So it broke it down company by company. And we had an EMS component as well, right? And so at first it was, paper says that I need to do step 1 and step 2 and step 3 and step 4. Yes, the test says that, right? But as a proctor, as an evaluator, and as a mentor for those who were unsuccessful in the beginning, I don't want you to read the test back to me. Like you were just saying, you're not going to pull up and go, I am on location, and step 1 is to do this, and step 2 is to do this. You instinctively have to move and adapt and overcome as you're going. So to look through that process and say, all right, the goal is we're going to take the 400-foot line around side Charlie up to the top floor and extinguish the fire. Yeah, that's the goal. Make it happen. So we actually had one crew. Man, and it was, I wish I had my camera on. They showed up in one of our pieces of apparatus that just does not serve the community well. And I'll leave it at that. Lo and behold, their 400-foot line on average sits about 12 feet in the air because it's on top of the hose bed. So they came to me and they said, Chief, listen, I know we kind of screwed up the first time because we had difficulty getting the hose line down. So we went back to the station and we devised a way to take our 200-foot cross lay and our 200-foot tray between the between the firefighter and the officer and the driver, and we can get it connected just as fast. I promise you.
Let's
make it happen.
Right?
Exactly. They pull up, hit the hydrant. The officer's pulling his part. He's doing his 360. The firefighter's pulling one. The engineman comes back. Chauffeur, comes back doing his part. Next thing you see, they're walking in unison. And as they're walking, one guy's untwisting the nozzle. The other guy's flipping it back like this. They're retwisting and they're walking. And I mean, choreographed, like whatever Broadway show you want to say. The second they were done, the driver still had about 50 feet in his hand. He dropped his. He let him go and continued back. The firefighter pays off, goes upstairs, and he's like, "What else do you want us to do today?" Like, that's what I want. That's what I want. Figure it out, right? No one said step 4, you're going to go onto the 12-foot height and pull the line down. No, they just said you had to pull your 400-foot line. Make it work. Make it work. And that was just like an awesome, awesome day. You had a senior firefighter, you had a junior-ish officer, and a chauffeur who definitely felt pride in kind of coming up with that plan. He's like, hey, I'm the guy that gets to stand back and watch you two do what you have to do. I think this is going to work. Let's try it. And they tried it and it worked. Like, that's what we need to say.
I love it. And it's empowering the guys to, like you said, it's not micromanaging. Hey, get an attack line to the 3rd floor. I don't need to tell you how to do it. That should be your company's standard. You already figured it out because you pre-planned, you've already worked and trained on how we're going to deploy that. And I love the fact that the guys are like, hey, Chief, we got a different way. And you're like, hey, bro, show me. And you're like, good. Instead of saying, it's out of specs or that's different than our other engines in our battalion. I want them all the same. No, like empower the guys to do what works for them, especially in their first due, for their building construction or their setbacks or whatever their nuance is, because we all know everyone's first due has those little nuances. And obviously the second due engine, I always say this, the second due engine has the hardest job because when shit hits the fan, they're going to be first into that company's due and they don't fucking know, right? So the second due companies are the most important to figure out, who we're covering and how we're going to accomplish that. But I love the fact that you're empowering the guys to take that on. And then what'd you say? Your chauffeur was like, he was just over moon. He's like, because that was, and so what that crew, they feel great about themselves. And then they're into the job, improves morale. It just, which improves customer service and everything. I mean, the trickle down effect is all positive because you as a battalion chief, a command officer was like, hey bro, show me. I'm not closed minded and I'm not going to micromanage you. I want you. Can you effectively do it? Awesome. I love that.
And made sure, remember that follow-up piece from before? Mm-hmm. Every station visit after that, man, you're never going to believe what, station so-and-so did. Really? Yes. It was awesome. You had to be there. Like it worked so well. So again, it takes that and they're in a tucked away area of the battalion, kind of, forgotten about. It's actually, they're far enough down that if you hit either the morning rush or the afternoon rush, you kind of skip the station because you're never going to get down there. It's 20 minutes down fighting traffic, 20 minutes back, etc. But because of that, you go there to retire, you go there to run less calls, you go there to be quiet, whatever. Like, hey, they figured it out. Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to step up and figure out, whatever that hurdle is that you have, like, let's get over it together.
I got you. All right. Well, listen, Chief, we've been going for almost an hour. So I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything else you want to touch on the education side? Because I really want to talk. You were involved in a serious mass casualty incident. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience when it comes down to the education for the American Fire Service as a whole?
Yeah, I think in, 2025, well, actually 2020 plus, we had a whole bunch of virtual classes. They ran their course. They were great. There are tons and tons of easily accessible online classes that you can take. And that's that whole train your six. Throw it on, let it run, take some notes, but also get out to the conferences. Get out, go to class, talk to other people, see how other people are doing it. I gave you the story earlier. I didn't visit other accounting firms, but we go and pop into other fire stations. You kind of look and like, hey, what's going on here? This is kind of cool. What do you do and why do you do it? So yeah, just always, always, always continue learning for sure.
And I love it. And it's funny, like you said, like we constantly pop in. I had a battalion chief on the show, Battalion Chief Chris Slayer, and he talked about he's from Mesa, Arizona, which is outside of my region just barely, but it's pretty much right there. We'll run automatic aid with them if it's a really, really big incident because they're kind of far. But he makes a valid point. If you stay in your department or your region, you're inbred. All you know is your system and you're no good to anybody else. Yeah, absolutely. Like Chief said, and a lot of other battalion chiefs and other firemen and captains and lieutenants have said it too. And I can't drive it home enough. Get out of your state, get out of your region. learn something new, and then bring it back to the guys and see, with all due respect, see if it'll work in your system. Sometimes it won't. And don't get butthurt about it. It's okay. Sometimes it might. And you could introduce a new tactic that could change the absolute system that you work in just because you decide to get out of your comfort zone and learn something new. I'm sure you agree with me, Chief, on this one.
So the two education points that I stick with, whether you're a recruit or we're doing a remediation, whatever the case is, you look at ideas. Right? Oh, let's try this. Let's try this. In the grand scheme of things, there's no new ideas. There's just different ways of doing something else, right? Someone else has thought about it, talked about it, et cetera. But then by the same token, fail. The word fail, F-A-I-L, first attempt in learning, right? If you, hey, all right, let's learn from it. And I like what you said earlier about the whys. Okay, why didn't it go right? Well, this happened. Okay, why? Okay, why? Okay, why? When you run out of whys, you found the root cause, right? And the root cause was you tripped over your boots coming out of the bunk to delay you getting on the engine, which completely threw off your routine. Whatever the scenario is, right? But you look at that and you go, okay, this was the first attempt in learning. We're going to go ahead and move on from here. And that's where that fail word all of a sudden is a safe word. Hey, I failed. We're good. I'm going to come back and do it again. Not I failed and I'm done. Never, ever, ever are you done. You failed. You learned. Let's do it again. Not that way.
Yeah, no, I love it. And like we talk about that all the time. I'm like, I tell brand new guys, I'm like, listen, yeah, I might be a lot better at skills than you are. It's because I fucked it up 1,000 times already. You just haven't had the opportunity to mess it up as much as I have. That's the only reason I'm good at it. Dude, I love that. I literally had to write it down because I've never heard that before. So fail. First attempt in learning. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh my God, I'm stealing it from you. I'm using it. I'm putting my name on it. I'm just kidding. I'll give you credit, Chief. But
I appreciate it.
No, I absolutely love it. And that's a good way to look at, it's not a failure. Hey, it's a good learning opportunity. I've told the guys, I'm like, hey, make a decision. If it's wrong, it's okay. We'll learn from it. If you make a decision and it's good, guess what? You get a pat on the back. Good job. You still learn something from it because, hey, that slideshow in my head, right? Or my Rolodex, I added one more. Hey, that worked in that scenario. I could use that again. Or the opposite. That was horrible. I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to pivot and try something else. If another suppression officer does that, I'm going to, hey, bro, I tried it. It doesn't work. Let's pivot a little bit. But we'll never figure that out if our ego's in the way and we don't learn from those mistakes. Yeah. Right. So, all right. Thank you again for going through the whole education. It is thoroughly important, especially in today's modern American Fire Service. We can't just rely on what we did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s because it just unfortunately doesn't work anymore. Our fire loads are different. Our building construction is a little bit different. Our firemen are 100% different. The community's different. So we might as well adapt with the times. So you were involved in a nasty mass casualty incident, MCI. Please, whatever you're willing to share about it, if you don't mind, just telling the audience what you guys ran into, what you came across, and kind of how you managed it. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were one of the first units on scene, if not the first unit on scene, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead and march it out if you don't mind for the audience.
All good. It's July 5th, a couple years ago. If you're familiar with East Coast weather, we run hazy, hot, and humid all summer long. Fires up some thunderstorms in the afternoon. July 5th, you've got, obviously holiday parties and everything else going on. We had dispatched out because the storm had blown through for some people in the water unaccounted for. And it was actually just rafts in the water, right? So you've got all your special ops assets heading to this water emergency that very quickly was canceled. They're like, nope, just a good intent. We're good. Not 8 miles south of it, part of that storm had broken off and created a derecho. I never thought I'd learn so much about weather. Again, learn something outside your comfort zone. Derecho is an incredible vertical line storm. A haboob, write that one down.
Yeah, we know those.
Oh, yeah, you guys, yeah.
We get those all the time.
That's in the city, right. So we're learning about these new terms. This derecho blows through. This family was having their birthday party for a grandchild. 21 people had crowded underneath a garage, essentially a detached garage, and an 80-foot silver oak just came uprooted and smashed through it. So one structure measured about 20 by 30, give or take. We have unknown, unaccounted for. We're getting multiple reports of building collapse with entrapment, which is unfortunate because the complacency end of it is we get building collapse. when a car accidentally backs into the bollard at McDonald's and then takes off. Like, a building was struck and it's collapsed. They dented the bollard. We're good. But this time it was the real deal. So we're dealing with holiday staffing. We're dealing with holiday traffic. We're dealing with all kinds of things. And the area that it went into was crazy. It actually has the pride of being the longest dead-end road in America. There's essentially, once you go past the Texas Roadhouse, it just turns into a nothing but feeder roads to little peninsulas. And so there's no way to like make a complete loop. No one's coming from the south to help. Like, everyone has to come in the main road, which from that point is still another 3 miles in. So get there. I'm actually working as the EMS supervisor for the day. So before I made BC, my buddy Ralph Supa, he's working as the safety officer for the day. Our special ops folks are currently queued up for water rescue. So they're taking their suits off. They're trying to get changed. They got to go get the pod truck and come back, because that's where all of our structural collapse stuff is in. So there's all these dynamic pieces, which, looking back, I think actually helped slow it down just a little bit to add some time into it. We get there, we get to the street, again, single lane road, single lane street. We're walking down and just destruction. I mean, trees, fences, cars are smashed left and right, wires are down everywhere. We don't know if they're alive or not. But what we do know is about 800 feet down this road are multiple confirmed entrapped people. Like, we need to get to them. So as we're going, all the external customers, while your field of vision is as big as it can be, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Working our way down. Yep, we're good. Okay. But also, that person had a ladder at their house. That person has a construction truck in their driveway. Like, things I'm going to file away, because if I need some stuff, I might actually just go steal it from them and apologize later. Kind of sizing up as you're going, keeping your eyes as open as possible. Because then you get to the scene. It was myself, an ambulance crew, and one of the volunteer chiefs had gotten there pretty much the same time. He took command at first, and out of any MCI book that you can write, here's one person who's dragging himself away from the pile with a broken leg, saying, "Help, help, help," and like moths to a flame, the first ambulance crew, well-intentioned, starts treating him. And meanwhile, you can hear people screaming. You can see hands waving, my baby, help, help, help. And I'm like, leave him. Actually, what I told him was drag him over there. What do you mean? He's not going to die from that broken leg. Not now. Like, we have other people to go take care of. So fail. First, walking down, eyes are wide open, 360. I can see everything. As I'm walking up the scene, I start putting gloves on, medical gloves. What am I getting ready to do? Lose my field of vision. I start helping to treat, help pull people out. And then I realize, as more crews are starting to come down, I got to back up, because I've lost perspective. Gloves come off. I step back. I take out a stat pad, or a little notepad, excuse me. Start jotting some notes down. Okay, we got this person here, this crew's here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Who's firing a chainsaw up and why? We don't know anything about this building just yet. And it's not a matter of no, don't be aggressive and cut everything off. This is a very surgical procedure that we're going to look at taking care of here. So we need to make sure that we're cutting the proper limbs off, that we're cutting the right part of the building apart. So stop that, and it was a lot of, I'll say, kind of accordion. We'd have crews engage and have to stop and pull back, and engage and have to stop and pull back. It was our first real mass casualty in years. So everybody was just, and especially in a collapse, right? It wasn't a bus overturned on the highway. It wasn't a school bus that got rear-ended by a car. This was people in a pancake of an old garage. Like, holy cow. So going through and going through the process, first of all, no one dies, which was amazing. We actually thought the guy on the bottom was dead because his arm was blue and his feet were blue. Turns out, you do a lot of cooking. You ever spatchcock the chicken, or you take the breast out? That's what this dude was like, flat against the ground with his head turned to the side, his legs splayed the same way. And the crew essentially took a backboard and shovels him off the ground and puts him right into the Stokes basket. But being the community that we are, and I feel like this is the truth all around America, it's just cool when you can see it with your own two eyes. Our associate medical director happened to live in the area, heard the call, popped on over. So he was there ready for that patient right away. The troopers were flying back from another mission. They got held up by the storm. They hear the call. They go ahead and land 2 baseball fields away. If you need us, we're right here. One of our heavy wreckers, we deal with a commercial company for heavy vehicle extrication. Dude's at home. Not sure what he was doing, but he was listening to the radio. He's like, I'm firing up Betty. I'm going to go over see if I can help. And a 60-ton wrecker shows up out of nowhere. We're like, all right, just hang out over there, right? Like all these things started to come into play that it really went once we stopped enough time and re-engaged and stopped and re-engaged, we started to figure out, okay, this is how it needs to be developed. And so I've been very, very fortunate to go around the country and talk about this incident from a couple different perspectives. Mass casualty in general, no one was out there taking the green tarp and laying it over here and taking the yellow tarp and putting it over here. We were saying, no, medical ambulance buses here. Put all the green people on the bus. There are 5 medic units lined up right back there. Cut that fence down. Ask the neighbor first and then do it either way. Cut that fence down, and we're going to take them through the yard this way, as opposed to trying to go back through all those trees and wires and everything over here. Overall, the event took about 2.5 hours to transport 21 people. The spatchcock guy, he got flown out, and the other trooper wasn't used. We transported by ground 19 people, 6 in medic units, and the other 13 in a bus to one hospital, because we went ahead and we called proactively all the regional hospitals. We actually called Syscom, which is the system that listens to and takes care of high priority calls and dispatches the helicopters. We called them and say, hey, do our dirty work for us. Call the local hospitals in our region, find out how many patients they can take. We anticipate 25 traumas. When you're done, text it to this number. That way I didn't have to try and write it down when they called me back. So it was just like all those on the fly. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, we got this. No, hard stop, regroup real fast. One of the cuts that we made was like a jack in the box. We identified the roof, structure, and how the tree was actually self-supported in it. They cut out about a 4x4 hole, and I forget exactly how many, but it was upwards of 5 or 6 people that actually climbed out of that hole. Like they didn't come out the door. They came out the roof. So very, very cool call to be in, to learn from. We actually went and readjusted our policies for MCI since then because of that incident. We've done trainings on it. We had some simulations that are set up. We use stuffed animals, throw them out, go do some triage, collect them up, make a transport plan. Let's get them out of here. Quick, easy, 30-minute, maybe an hour scenario. And then again, for me personally, being able to take that story and go out and share it across the country, it's been great. I've used it for MCI, for EMS conferences, used it for leadership when we talk about, how you set that structure up and how people have to kind of fall into and fold into those specialized operations, whether it be tech rescue or the one-off. The tornado comes through, the derecho happens, you have some sort of natural disaster that occurs that might not ever occur in your career. You have to have a solid foundation of leadership. You have to have a solid foundation of command. So very, very good call. Absolutely love talking about it.
What if you, obviously, perfect world, hindsight being 2020, when you respond to that incident, if that happened again tomorrow, what would be like the one thing that you would change? Would it be the EMS gloves? What would be the first thing you would change, or the one thing you would change that you believe would positively affect the outcome? It sounds like it was a positive effect anyway, but just what would you do to feel like you maybe did a better job or fixed one little nuance that maybe happened on that?
Yeah, so we have a whole command board template that has binders that have the incident command, that have triage, that have transport, that have treatment. And being able to grab those, hey, engine 1, this is your assignment. Engine 2, this is your assignment. Medic 1, this is your assignment. Pass them out, have them take ownership of it. Like I said, we've done tons of training on it since. So they've seen those boards, they understand them, and it works well for MCI, but it also works well for those one-offs. If we have to do a systematic search of houses after a storm blows through or tornado come through, we know how to go through and, okay, use the triage template. These are the things that you're going to triage. And so it's being able to have, and we've talked about it a lot, the ability to empower a crew who might not normally do that skill or that task. Here are the directions on how to do it. Get it done. I don't need you to come back to me for everything. You get the resources you need. The other one too is we are, as a collective group, the American Fire Service, very much action oriented. We want to do something. I need to be doing something with my hands. Even talking to you, I've been sitting here flipping a pen around. So at the moment that the incident occurred, the units, like I said, they were offset just enough to kind of slow them down, but there were still a lot of units that just immediately ran right to the scene and said, hey, what do you need? I need stuff. We got people. I need stuff. I need backboards. I need saws. I need cribbing. We're going to need some high lift jacks. We're going to need some air bottles to do some bag lifts. We're going to need hazmat. Take a look around because there's a garage. So it was like, okay, I'm going to go run back and get it and then come back. So that action-oriented mindset to kind of say, all right, I'm going in for this. I've heard this. You know what? Everybody just stage a minute and we'll start to bring you in one by one. And more importantly, tell you what we need you to bring. Like that was a missing component for sure. And I wouldn't say a time delay, but there were definitely people that were making multiple trips that even kind of said, oh yeah, I should have brought this with me.
Well, that's good. And like I said, we learned something from everything, and it sounds like it was a extremely positive outcome on a very crazy incident. So no, thank you for sharing it. Like I've been dying. Like I said, I kind of knew a little bit talking to Captain Supa right now, but going through everything. So it was good. Thank you for kind of hashing it out. So let's transition off of that crazy call. Let's talk about that 95% house fire. So the bread and butter, we all know it. Single story, two story, doesn't matter what it is. So in your department, how do you guys run that bread and butter, single line, maybe two line fire, no big deal in your department? Are you NIMS driven, SOP driven? How's that work? If you can just kind of march out that box assignment, whatever you guys call it, when that gets dispatched, what does it look like? And then how do the units operate, if you don't mind hashing out for the audience?
Sure. So our typical box, hydrant box, is going to bring your 5 engines, your 2 trucks. We're going to have special services in there. You're going to have your 2 battalion chiefs, and then you're going to have, depending upon the area, if it's non-hydrant or if it requires additional water, you're going to have your tanker complement in there as well. Excuse me. We're SOG driven until the IC arrives, until the battalion chief arrives and takes command. And so, as we were talking about before, running through these assessment centers, we really focus on, if you're the first due officer, what's your span of control? 3 to 7, 5's optimal. Cool. Think about your hand. So I've got my engine crew, I've got me, and then I'm going to worry about the second engine, the first due special, and the truck company, because they're all going to be on side alpha with me, or they're going to be on the entrance side with me. Then the other half of the assignment, 4th due engine, the 5th due engine, second truck, is going to be on the opposite side. Typically, Alpha and Charlie, for you guys, 1 and 3. But for, in the grand scheme of things, like you said, bread and butter, that's how we're going to be set up. All of our stuff, again, SOG driven in the absence of the incident commander. Once the incident commander gets there and sets up that strategic command, it's about the big picture. So I'm out here, I'm sitting in the buggy, I got the windows up, I'm able to take everything in. We had an incident, let's see, we're going to go back about 18 months now. Engine got a real good jump on getting out the door, shows up. They had a fire that was on the exterior side, Charlie, had gotten into the house, had gotten into an occupied house. It's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The wife said she's home, she's making dinner, cooking dishes, something. Here's a pop, looks over, it's the slider blows out when the fire starts licking in the house because it had started on the back porch.
Yeah.
Husband, I was walking the dog or getting the mail, one of the two. So the fire blows in, they all get out, they're watching this, the engine gets a good jump, but I pull up, I back in the driveway and I look and I'm like, there's just something that's not comfortable. There's something that's not right with this. I got a line inside, we've got water, the next in engine's coming water heavy, they're good, they're pulling a second line. Gosh, we've got smoke coming out of every piece of soffit and heavy black, brown, thick smoke. It's getting ready to, and I mean, as soon as it hit my mind, the whole roof just ignites. Quick horn, the driver hits his horn, evacuate the structure. We call for the evacuation tones. It goes. It was actually one of the first incidents where I raised my voice, if you would, to kind of say, hey, there is no compromise on this. Everyone is evacuating the structure now. and I'm counting head and I'm watching them, and they know something bad was happening because they're like rolling out the door. So line's coming out, and like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm looking at my board and I'm counting 7, but I've got 8 that should be coming out. All right, one more time. 7, 8, yep. Command engine 10. Command engine 10. Nothing. Engine 10, go ahead. Do you have all your crew accounted for? That's correct. He's coming out now. And you watch that last firefighter come out. All right. So, when we talk about our bread and butters, even that, it was just at that point in time, like, all right, let's drop back and punt. We're out of water. And so we're gonna go ahead and drown this thing out. Even on those bread and butters, though, we have a backup system where we'll call for a working fire dispatch. That's going to bring an additional engine and a truck. The truck is solely there to supplement RIT. It's going to bring you ancillary services. We're going to get an air wagon. We're going to get the shift commander. You're going to get the fire investigators if needed. And we've really tried to, everything that we've done in the past half decade, give or take, has developed itself that you can ramp up and ramp down as much as you need to any given incident. And it's not just robotic. Like, just because you have a fire doesn't mean we're going to pull the working fire dispatch because it was a trash can on fire at the front door. It looked impressive, but the water can put it out, so we don't need everyone else coming. So the crews, again, they are poised and ready to perform in the absence of the IC. They set up, if they're on the side Charlie or side 3, they're going and getting the 400 stretched. If they can't get on side Charlie, if they're coming through another yard, we have ladders being taken back there. The truck drivers, the truck chauffeurs, if needed, are getting dressed and going in with their crews after the lines or the ladders are in place. And so it's those little parts that, you watch it unfold, and we fall back to accountability and fall back to effective and efficient. If the jobs are getting done, excuse me, I don't need to call for additional resources as long as I have backups for them. If I'm looking across the buggy and all of a sudden I'm out of people because everyone's working, it's time to call for more people. But if everyone's missing working, and we're on like a 900 square foot rancher, what's everybody doing? Like, are you guys all in shaking hands and patting each other on the back? Like, let's start pulling some crews back out. Let's reset. And those are the tailboard talks we have. We kind of started with this, like, hey, man, I know it took me a little bit of time to get here, but I definitely heard the first 2 officers say, I'm stretching a line, fire's knocked, etc. 5th due engine. Why did you guys find it necessary to get in? Well, the 5th due engine's, supposed to go in with the line on the backside. Supposed to. Was it needed? No. So, you kind of hit that wall. Like, all right, so why? Why did you do it? And you get back into that. Well, the SOG says to. It does. We also need to make sure that we're thinking, that we're effective and efficient in our management, that we're effective and efficient in our movements, because had I needed that line somewhere else, you guys were trapped, right? You guys were stuck in the back of the house or stuck in the front of the house, depending upon where you come from, which direction you came from, excuse me. So that has been the next step as we've evolved, really trying to push that thinking firefighter, making sure that you're doing it for purpose, not just checking a box.
Yeah, and it literally loops back to the beginning of our conversation, the why. Like you said, hey, why'd you do that? Did you need to do that? And again, that forward-thinking firefighter, and it's a no-brainer. It's like we got to teach these guys from day one. This is a why, and if it's outside the why, you might not have to do it, and you'll figure that out with experience under a good officer and everything like that once you get some time on, and then you can start teaching the new guy the same thing. Before we get off the box assignment, what's your truck culture like in Anne Arundel County? Because I'm a truckie through and through, so I love talking truck work. So your truck's on scene. You said you get 2 trucks on a working fire or the initial dispatch. So what's the truck culture like in your department? Do they search through windows? Do they search ahead of hand lines? Are they kind of can focus? If you don't mind marching that out, boss.
Yeah, go for it. So yeah, we get 2 on the initial. That 3rd truck's coming on the working fire. And they are tactically working with the company. I should say they're working with the side that they're assigned to. So 1st due truck is going to work tactically with the 1st due engine. All right, which way are we heading? Which way are you going? We're going up. You're going in. You're going in. We're going up, wherever the fire is located. And for the most part, our crews work together on the usual. So they know each other and they kind of know that flow. Our squad companies have 4, so they do have the ability to sometimes come and split. So they'll run 2 and 2 with a search as well. And then on that backside, on that side, Charlie, they are typically setting up for some sort of line over ladders or coming in VES, second floor if need be. It just depends on how the incident evolves. The structures in the county vary everything from somewhat historical, I mean, not the 1800s ish, but we've got a bunch of dotted row homes and townhomes in the northern side, to those mega mansions I was talking about, the one that we had back on Sunday with 8,000 square foot McMansion. I mean, it's any given Sunday you can have a variety of structures that you're responding to. So their performance plan tactically is to get in, get the searches done, work with that engine to start checking for extensions, start pulling Sions, or whatever it is they request. The other thing, too, is that we don't have a ton of dedicated truck companies. So we've got our 2 northern truck companies dedicated. We've got one in the middle of the county, if you would, geographically speaking. And then our other companies that have trucks swing between the engine and truck. So they have a life of learning or knowing both jobs. Many of them are proficient in both, no questions about it. But they do know that sometimes it's the Achilles heel. Like I'm an engine person 1 minute, come back to the station, back in, hit the head real fast. Oh, now I'm a truck person. Poof, back out the window I go, or back out the door I go, excuse me. So you've got that mix in there that's good. And for the dedicated truck company guys, they are trucks through and through, no doubt about it.
I love it. And like I said, I love the fact that you guys outproduce the fire with manpower. It sounds like I mean, in all reality, when you start talking about the guys I've talked to in this podcast, an initial assignment of 5 engines and 2 ladders, 2 BCs is a lot, right? Which is amazing. It's good. That's like, just listening to guys. So LA City, New York City, those guys literally pride themselves on, we beat the fire with fucking manpower. Like literally, like they're saying like we beat it. And it is 100% true. Like you get enough guys on scene, you can pretty much accomplish anything. The communication on your end obviously gets a lot harder. The more trucks and manpower that we insert onto the incident. But I love the fact on how aggressive you guys are, especially with your searches, your ladder companies, everything else. So kudos to you guys. I hope that continues. And I'm a huge fan of SOG driven firegrounds because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in your system, I believe it cuts down on a lot of radio chatter, which increases the chance of, I'm a huge component of the radio should be outside of your BIR, your initial report, whatever you want to call it in your system. Outside of that, it should be bad news only because it outside that, you know where I'm stretching, where the location of the fire is, because I already told you on my initial assignment. So I want to leave it open for exactly what you said. The guy falls into the basement, or we have a building collapse, or whatever. The conditions change rapidly and we need to evacuate. I want that radio traffic in the system I work in right now. And again, my personal opinion, I believe that we micromanage our firefighters because we set up where it is a command. And if I am a captain in the right front seat, if I'm the first unit on scene, I have command of that scene. And then I have to give out assignments. So nobody will act until I say the exact words, which again, my personal opinion, delays response, delays actions, because again, that's why I always preempt on the 95%, because 95% of the time we're doing the same thing. It's that 5% that we have to pivot. But man, it'd be great to have the radio space when we have to pivot and get on and say, okay, this is not our normal bread and butter house fire. The bulk of the fire, because that second in officer did that 360 or whatever the case might be. Now, hey, we went through the front door because, say, we might have blinders on. Shit, the bulk of the fire is in the rear. Should we redeploy? Or maybe that second company actually gets that bulk of the fire and then we can commit a search. Obviously, there's a million different scenarios, but I love the fact that you guys are SOG driven, and it seems like it's pretty successful in your system right now.
It is, and it's worked well. And I think going back to what you said about communications, we're getting into a point now where, like you said, we don't need good news. We want bad news. I preach a lot of, you can write this one down and share it with your listeners if you like, dimwit, DIMWIT. Does it matter what I transmit? Don't tie up airtime with just thinking. It is the button on the side that's pushed to talk, not pushed to think. And so we go through and we say, hey, listen, you have your entry reports, you have your transition reports, and really that's it. Like, keep the radio traffic down. And again, you hit the nail on the head in case something changes, and that something being catastrophe, something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, like I said, worst case scenario, we want that radio traffic. And it's funny, when I first came out to this system, I had asked on probation, went through the academy just like a brand new guy. And I remember my first assigned officer, he was off, right? And we had caught a really good job. And I had talked to him afterwards, and I was confused on the radio transmission. And so I'd asked him, I'm like, hey, like, Cap, what happens if I have to call a Mayday? And he, good captain, he starts marching down the order of how we do it. And I'm like, okay, boss, I'm sorry. I understand how to call a Mayday, but how do I actually get across on the radio? Because that last job, no one stopped talking the entire fucking time. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's hard. And I'm like, why do we do this? And he's like, I don't know. I know this is just what we do. It's, again, it's one of those things where we've always done it. It's always worked. So why would we pivot again? Because we get really lucky a lot of times and we don't have a ton of Maydays. And again, it's like you said, we run the numbers, and the likelihood of a Mayday is less than the likelihood of us being successful, which is a good thing. But again, it doesn't excuse the fact that we should look at those scenarios and figure out, is there a better way to talk on the radio, or do we talk too much, or do we not talk enough, whatever the scenario is. So I love, like I said, I love that conversation. I love that question, because again, you had said Mississippi, west to east, it's all different, but it's basically the same type of construction. All the fires are the same. The people are 100% the same, and the firemen are all the same. So why are we so dramatically different?
So I know we have a couple questions coming up here, and you actually literally just stole my answer, because that would be the one thing that I would change immediately. I gave me the example of my dad. He's an accountant. He learned how to do accounting, guidelines set out by the IRS, little intricacies here and there. You learn those on the job for each state or each county, whatever the case is. The same's in the fire service. We do the same exact job, life, property, environment, everywhere you go. So you should be able to go to a regionalized facility, learn the basics, get it going, and then take that and apply. And I know a lot of places out west, and Florida is the same, where you actually go to the community college and you get your fire, your hazmat, your EMT, and then you can go and take that and shop it around. The other thing too is, Florida, California, other states as well, there's just two off the top of my head, have a statewide pension system. So that if I get bored working in this area, I'm going to try the north for a little while. I'm going to go work up there. It's not for me. I'm going to come back to the city, and your money travels with you. It's not about the money, but it is about the longevity and you planning for the future, for sure. My answer to question number 2 is being able to have that regionalized training, for sure.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, since you gave me the perfect segue, so I'm going to start with question number 2. We'll make it question number 1. So the question is, right, that Battalion Chief Cvach's answering right now is, if you could change one thing in the American Fire Service, immediate impact, zero sweat equity, happens right now, what would it be? So please just explain that answer one more time. So regionalized training, basically.
Sure. Essentially, it would be, we'll just use the term national training. You
Okay.
have the National Registry of EMTs and paramedics, and they set out the standard of what everyone needs to fall under. Now, we have NFPA standards, and most training academies teach to that standard. You have IFSTA, National Fire Academy, all those other agencies involved in there. They should be able to funnel it all up, the FESHI model, and say, hey, this is the national standard. This is where you get trained to. Anybody that goes to a certified regional academy can't just pop up, Joe's House of Fire and figure it out in 3 days or whatever the case is. But you have that certification, and you can shop it around. Hey, you know what? I don't have any kids. I don't have a wife. I'm going to go move out west. Or I have a wife and family, and we want to get closer to resources, so I'm going to move towards the city. Whatever the case is, and you have that there. You don't have to go, oh, we'd really like to move, and I love being a firefighter, but I don't want to go through another 20-week academy, or whatever number week academy it is for those individual areas. So yeah, if I had the magic wand and could do it one day, that would be it.
I love it. So I'm going to give you a bonus question, because I had robbed your answer. So we hadn't talked about this ahead of time. So we talked about regionalized and everything. So let's go back a little bit and talk about just tactics. And then we had mentioned multiple times, hey, we've always done it this way, blah, blah, blah. So we do across the nation, we do more EMS than we do fire. fortunately, unfortunately, whatever the case might be, depending on how you love. Um, so when they change something EMS wise, it's gospel. And I don't know how many times we go to weekly trainings and they're like, hey guys, we're no longer doing 30 to 2, where you do constant compressions, passive O2. A year later, that's wrong. We're not going to do that. Maybe we're going to switch it up. And we literally say, okay. And then we just do it. Why don't we do that on the fire side? Because we will bring literally stats, videos, proof that this is better 8,000 different ways. And guys will be like, fuck that. I ain't doing that. Why do you think we buck so much on the fire side compared to the EMS side? We literally like, okay, I'll just do it that way.
So I'm going to work around this a little bit here.
Okay.
Last November, I went to Science of the Station in Emmitsburg. It's actually out in your area this year in Colorado, I think.
Okay.
I honestly kind of got there by accident. I was like, this seems kind of cool. I think I want to go. I'm going to sign up. Got in. We're good. And it was a ton of people that were smarter than any of us combined. I mean, just PhD after PhD after doctor. But what they really wanted to do was talk to us and say, listen, we are researchers. We are the people that are out there. We're the Dan Majrzowskis that are out there doing all this testing for you. We just need you to accept it. And what was gut wrenching was the fact that Dr. Denise Smith said when the U.S. Fire Service, U.S. Fire Administration, started 50 some years ago, on average, there were I forget the exact numbers, but I think it was like a dozen research projects a year that were going on relating to firefighters on average. So one a month. Currently, it's a dozen a week that pop. Now, it's everything. It's fire dynamics, it's equipment, it's telemetry, AI, cancer in the fire service, wear tests, different biometrics. There we go. And it's just all these things, and they're constantly going. And there's so much information out there that it almost is a hindrance, because you can go on social media right now, or you can go on a verified site and say, okay, yeah, I see where this test did this, and the flow path does show that. Okay, that makes sense. All right. There really aren't a whole lot of EMS sites that bash those protocol changes. You know what I mean? Or that say that's not right. I can misprove that, because for whatever reason, we tend to listen to those doctors that have brought this forward. So I think it's time for us to pay due respect to the same doctors that are saying, hey, these things need to change for these reasons. And I think a lot of it goes into buy-in. I think for a lot of people, EMS is just something they do, whereas fire is something they are, right? So when you talk about change, something I do, this process has changed. I'll use the left-handed widget then instead of the right-handed widget. Cool. Something you are, when you talk about change, it's not the change that they go against, it's the fear of loss. I used to do it this way, and it's always worked for me. And now you want me to change it? What's it going to do to me? Right? How does it impact my job? What's my loss out of this? And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how the answer is just a stroke of a pen, or just, hey, we do it over here. Why can't we do it over here? A lot of it is steeped in tradition, no doubt about it. But a lot of it needs to come back to the why. The reason that this is changing, the reason that this is moving in this direction, is because things globally have changed, and we have to adapt with them. Because if not, we're getting left behind.
It's true. And it's like I said, I don't know the answer either. I mean, I was really hoping you knew the answer, and then we're just going to go gangbusters from here. But I almost want to say, hey, we need to get firemen in those doctor positions or whatever, to almost create that buy-in. But I don't even think that's going to matter, because we have those guys, and then we have really hard chargers that are respected in their associated departments preaching it, and they're still getting shit on because they're like, no, it's different. And again, it might be a tradition thing, it might be a generation thing, but I know we are actively, at least out here in our region, trying to fight that old school mentality of we've always done it this way, and trying to introduce, and it is slowly starting to get a lot of traction. And I think the only reason it really is because we've had a very large turnaround lately where a bunch of guys have been retiring. So we're hiring a lot of new guys and they're learning the latest and greatest. So to them, that's just the job. So they're bringing that into the field. And then when it's brought up and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm good at it. Boom, 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 boom. They're like, it works great. And they're like, and so maybe that's creating some buy-in. So maybe it's just attrition and time, but it's, I mean, I've taught classes to my department where I'm literally giving them a brand new tactic, not deleting a thing. And after the class, I'm getting a phone call later going, did you say you could cross the ridge on a house? I said, yeah, I did. Absolutely. Well, have we trained the guys on that? I'm like, if you don't remember, a year and a half ago, we trained all of our ladder companies to cross the ridge, boom, 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 boom. And they're like, oh shit, I forgot about that. Well, you told a bunch of engine guys this and they weren't comfortable with it. I'm like, well, that's not my fault. You know, I literally told them, listen, if you don't feel comfortable with this tactic, you haven't been trained on it, or even if you do feel comfortable with it, but your crew dynamic that day is just not there, don't fucking do it. I'm just trying to give you another option, and I'm not deleting anything, and they still buck it. And I'm like, I just don't know. I'm trying really fucking hard, you know, and it's just, I don't know. It gets frustrating sometimes when you have these senior members that are like, well, hey, Steve, 10 years ago, I did that and got my ass ripped. I'm like, dude, if we're talking 10 years ago, it's merely interesting. Yeah, I bet you did get your ass ripped. If we're talking more than 5 years ago, I don't even want to hear it at this point. We've changed so much. We need to just start progressing forward, but I know you know the same thing. It's just hard. You know, it's hard to get the buy-in right now.
My for my 10-year stories, if you would, 10 years ago, this and this, I tell them those people are all retired.
Okay.
Those people who you are worried about, because you couldn't do it or a different tactic, whatever the case is, they're all retired. They've moved on. They've moved on to something different. You need to as well. We need to move on from this and try something.
Yeah, the only reference now I have is exactly what I gave you. And unfortunately, one of our medics, one of my really good buddies, that's a ladder guy through and through, he said that and he's like, hey man, we changed our EMS tactics and exactly what I said. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I should have used that. But it's in here for the next time. So, all right, we'll get on to question number one. Now question number two. So the why. So we ask the why all the time. We ask the why for the guys getting hired. Hey, why do you want this job? Why do you want to work for this city or this county? But this is the why for Joe Cvach. Why did you get involved in the American Fire Service? Was it something you wanted to do as a kid? Is there something that you happened later on in life? So if you don't mind marching out for the audience, how'd you get involved in the American Fire Service? So what's your why, brother?
So I am getting ready to go into high school. I live in a suburb of Baltimore. I could walk to 7-Eleven. I could ride my bike to the mall, all these things. My parents decided, nope, we're moving to the country. And so I moved begrudgingly, I'll say leave all my friends. What we did is a 30-mile ride. We'd buy a house out in the country, go to a different school, kind of trying to find my way through things. All of a sudden turned 16, and I'm actually just still trying to figure out life. And my dad, throughout my whole career, throughout my whole childhood, had always volunteered at the local firehouse on the administrative side. He would help with, accounting or fundraising, etc. So he's like, you know what? You should go down to the firehouse and see if you can volunteer down there. Well, that firehouse was 8 miles away. So, all right, go down, put my application in and start. And that was in 1996. And here I am in 2025, getting ready to go into my 30th year of both career and volunteer service. To be completely honest with you, I volunteered all through high school, the rest of high school, I should say, with the intentions of becoming a landscape architect. Went to Temple University up Philadelphia, paid a bunch of money to learn how to print really nicely, which I can still do to this day. And I can identify most of the hardy wood out there. That was a weird statement to make. We'll just keep going, right? I did actually do landscaping for a while when I first got in the fire service, and then just really fell in love with teaching and everything else. And the landscaping is something I do for myself at the house, the fire service itself. Again, both career and volunteer, both working the shift and teaching is complete passion. Absolutely. In the past couple years, been very, very fortunate to move out to not only teaching locally, but also getting across the country and teaching a couple different places. I'm actually heading out to North Dakota in September, teach a 2-day seminar out there. So, it's been really, really great. It's been an amazing ride. And it's funny, like you said, you go and you're like, hey, can you send me a bio? I'm like, all right, here we go. And I went and I looked, and one of the classes I'm actually presenting at, said, send me a 150-word bio. I'm like, okay. So I did, and then it kept getting rejected. Like the prompt would come up, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? I reread it, 150 character bio, like words, spaces, and periods and commas. Like, how do I put my bio into 150 characters? All right. So I hopped on the old chat GPT. Hey, can you condense this to 150 characters for me? Yeah, no problem. And there's, 3 sentences. But it really boiled down to education, passion for the job, and a commitment to growing our fire service, right? Because I love this job, but to be honest with you, anymore nowadays, when I go on vacation, I like to go on vacation. Like, let me get away from it, clear my head, enjoy my time with my family, etc. And so my hope is in the next couple of years to start figuring that transition plan out. I'm only 45, so hopefully I got another bunch of years left in me to keep doing this and keep moving forward. But yeah, started out 16, snot-nosed the volunteer firehouse is where it was. Volunteered all through high school. I actually volunteered in college too, and it was the same company number. It was Station 7 Jarrettsville in Harford County, Station 7 Wissahickon up in Butler, PA, Bucks County. And that was just where it kind of dawned on me. Like, I really like doing this. I don't mind the landscape thing, but I was going for landscape architecture, so I was going to get stuck in an office all day. Yeah, it's not for me. So I came back, went through paramedic school, and started paramedic school in 99. 2001, graduated, got picked up July of 2001 in Anne Arundel. And like I said, going into my 25th year. So it's been a heck of a ride.
That's awesome. I love the story. Great career so far. And like I said, I wish you a ton of active years in the future if you choose to. So we did the why, we did the what would you change. So let's get to the most important question, traditions. We've talked about them a couple times, kind of in a negative light because it kind of holds us back, which we understand. But let's talk about your favorite tradition. So what's your favorite American Fire Service tradition? We had talked before, doesn't have to be your department, but absolutely can be. So what's your favorite tradition, but more importantly, why? Why is it your favorite tradition?
I think in the grand scheme of things, and this one actually was the hardest for me to come up with, and then it dawned on me the other day when I was at work, it's station pride. Station pride to say this station represents the department, but also the community that we're in, right? And so, yeah, you go out there and you got the skull and crossbones guys, and we have the different characters, if you would, drawn in. But in some way, shape, or form, that still ties back to the community that you're part of. So station pride is huge. Pride patches and being able to put your station emblems on your apparatus and on your shirts and everything, your job shirts. Like, that's huge. That has buy-in for you as an employee, that has buy-in for the community in some way, shape, or form. Like, that's our firehouse. Even though it says county or city or jurisdiction or district, insert the first name there, that station pride is what really turns it into that's my firehouse. Like, that's the one that I work for as an employee, as a volunteer, or as a community member. So I like the station pride aspect of it.
I love station pride, and that's something that unfortunately is not nationwide, because some departments are like, absolutely not. This is Joe Schmo's fire department, and that's what it's going to say on the truck. That's what it says on your shirt. Period. The end. I don't care what station number you're at. But correct me if you feel differently, but I honestly feel like on top of all that, it builds a ton of morale, which again includes better employees, better customer service, better community service. I mean, my opinion, there is no negative on a station pride as long as they're appropriate. Like, you can't say first due in your box on the back of the shirt. Like, some companies in your department used to have, at least the volunteer side, way back in the day. But it's like, outside of the crude stuff, yeah, who cares if you're wearing a t-shirt that says, whatever, Pride of the West, whatever it might see, but it builds camaraderie amongst the crew, and they love their job. What are they going to do? They're going to go out train. They're going to figure out a different way to deploy that 400-foot attack line to make it effective in there. I mean, it's a positive thing, but for some reason, there's a lot of departments that just buck that because it's, hey, this is taxpayer money. It's going to say whatever the city or the county on it. There's a community that I used to live in, and I don't know what those guys did, but they did a very good job in marketing themselves, because I'll tell you what, every neighbor I talked to, they'd be like, that's my fire department. And I'm like, and that's the first time I heard someone say it like that. And they're like, those are my guys. And I'm like, what do you mean you're like, it was like, they belong to them. Like, that is my fire department. But guess what? That department got whatever the fuck they wanted, whenever they wanted, because of everyone felt like that. That's my fire department. and it's like, I'm like, whatever they did it right, and it's just like,
Yeah.
just trying to tap into that. But yeah, morale, station pride. No one has said that yet. And I freaking love it. Like station patches, put on the side of the truck, on the t-shirt. I'm assuming you guys allow that in your department.
We do, yeah. So it recently kind of really hit the department in a good way. Of hey, start making this, like you said, it's got to go up, it's got to get approved. Make sure this is tasteful, let's make sure this is appropriate, and then come back down. But now everywhere you go, we're white with yellow, gold Scotch light. Anne Arundel County, check your smoke detectors, communities we serve, all over the apparatus. Somewhere on the apparatus, you'll have a sticker or a patch, in a window, whatever. Like, nope, that's our department as well. That's the station within the department, and that's really, really cool.
Oh, I love it. All right, well, Chief, we're wrapping up here. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we sign off, my brother?
Get out and learn. I mean, you have to keep learning in this industry. Take 6 minutes a day, take 6 hours a day, whatever the case is, and really, really, really get out and learn, read something new, and from everywhere, from the fire department, from your local town newsletter, from the paper in general, and other industries. Learn from other industries, see what they're doing. Makes us better all the way around.
Gotcha. All right. Before we sign off, in case the audience wants to reach out to you, is there any way they could contact you? Either email, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you're willing to give out.
Sure. Joe Cvach, that's CVACH @gmail.com. That's the blessing of having a difficult last name. It's the only one out there on both Facebook and LinkedIn. So Joe Cvach @gmail.com, and then across Facebook and LinkedIn. I appreciate it.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you guys ever want to reach Chief Cvach, like I said, reach him out. You want to talk about education, you want to talk about the mass casualty. I'm sure he's willing to talk shop. So email him, reach him on social media. He's a great resource. Like I said, a hard charger. He's got 30 years in the fire service, one of the boys. So we appreciate you, Chief. Again, thank you so much for your time. And we will catch you guys in another 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in another 2 weeks. Remember to like, share, review if you can. Helps drive traffic to our podcast. Remember, let's leave our ego out of the fire service. It's amazing what we can accomplish when no one's looking for credit. Much love. Let's stop eating our own and become better firemen. Catch you next time.